About going live. We can talk about it later. But intro, thank you. This is the episode 2 of the Meet the Press podcast. I am Tyler Dixon. Jared, man, I got the direction wrong again. Jared McDonald is over there. We hopefully have a little bit more order for you guys this evening. Hopefully, is the goal. Um, but Jared and I have kind of talked about a lot going on this week with him and myself, obviously. So let's get right into it. Our first topic, um, Jared. I know yesterday when I saw the Dwayne Haskins news, the first, the first thing was like, holy crap.
Yeah, absolutely. I was the same way. I grew up an Ohio State fan. He was one of those guys that I watched kind of growing up and getting into sports. Him and guys like Terrell Pryor and JT
Hmm.
Barrett, Cardell Jones when they won the national title. Um, but yeah, I was shocked when I saw that news. And the first place I saw that was Adam Schefter. Um, he
Yeah,
breaks a ton of news. I don't know if he worded the tweet maybe the way um, he should have, and I know we wanted to talk a little bit about this. For those that didn't read it, it was
yeah,
Dwayne Haskins, a standout at Ohio State before struggling to catch on with Washington and Pittsburgh in the NFL, died this morning when he got hit by a car in South Florida for his agent, um, and so forth.
right.
Um, we've had to cover situations like this in the past, and
Yeah.
how do you kind of go about that?
It's super funny because I just talked with my students on Friday. We talked about how to cover difficult topics, and we watched a little documentary on the Parkland shooting down in Florida, and about how their student newspaper staff like wrote like a in memory issue after that, and it's weird because I remember a specific case where I covered like a person who went to SIU who was from where I'm from, passed away. I had to write the story. I broke the story, had to write it, talk to his brother, talk to his family, and then at the end of the night, that's when I got sad about it. I mean, because it was somebody that I grew up watching. But yeah, like you said, it's difficult, and every situation is the same. I told my students yesterday or Friday, I hope you guys never have to worry about that. Like, I hope you never have to cover anything like that. I hope you never have to go through anything like that. But yeah, it's definitely a difficult situation.
Yeah, there's been a few that I've had to deal with over the years. The ones that stand out to me are probably the legendary coach at Mason County, Alan Feldhouse. Um, he had done a great job and really made that basketball program there. He was a standout, athlete on his own regard. Had three sons that were all great players and went on to have, two of them had great coaching careers as well, Alan Jr. and Willie. But you know, another one that I remember, last fall was John Oldham. Not last fall, but the fall before. John
Mhm.
Oldham, longtime Western, player, coach, and athletic director. The thing that I really wanted to do, you don't want to. A lot of times, you want to be the first person to break news, but in a situation like that, you want to make sure you're right first of all, and you
Right,
want to do
right.
it in a respectable way. I remember with like the John Oldham one, it was a crazy week. It was COVID was doing a number on the basketball schedules, to put
Mhm.
it lightly. The Friday before that happened, I was prepared to go to Nebraska for a bubble type, basketball or not preseason, but season opening event.
Mhm.
We were on a Zoom with Rick Stansbury, Western's head basketball coach, and that's when all the plans changed. I ended up in South Dakota, and the night before I left for South Dakota, that day before is kind of when the news broke that he had passed
Mhm.
away. So I was trying to get in touch with some of his former players and coaches, and current people that might be able to share stories and really tell what kind of person that he was.
Mhm.
And I think that's probably the best way to go about it. That going back to that original tweet with Dwayne Haskins just came off a little, harsh, saying that
Right.
he was a struggling NFL quarterback, and you could have just said he's an NFL quarterback. So
Right, exactly, and it's like, but and to quickly go back on what you said, whenever you talk to these people, like I remember when I was in Hopkinsville when Jared Lorenzen passed away, and one of his running backs at Kentucky was the great Artus Pinner, that played in the NFL for a little bit from Hoptown, and I talked to Artus that day, and he told me stories about Jared, and that's and you, like you said, it wasn't at that point. It wasn't my job to be like, okay, Lorenzen died. He did this. It was my job to be like, okay, these are the stories that people have about Lorenzen and about people like relating to him. And yeah, so we wish Shefty would have, because again, in that sense, you're not necessarily you're a journalist still, but you're still a person.
Yeah, and it kind of dehumanizes. It doesn't kind of. It does dehumanize him. A
Right,
lot of
right,
people don't get to deal with like the athletes and coaches like we do. Like
right,
I have people that a lot of people just see them as like an item, I guess.
right, right.
And to put it blunt, asking me to come to Thanksgiving with them.
Yeah,
I'm sitting in the office on Thanksgiving, but
yeah.
uh, you know,
We have
it,
job. Yeah,
you get to know these people working with them day in
yeah.
and day out, and a lot of the most of the conversations, for that matter,
Hmm.
are not on the record anything you're ever going to use, but just seeing how they're doing, seeing how their family's doing.
Right.
I cover a lot of student athletes, so it's how's school going, like where are you
Hmm.
in your degree, what are you going to do after, do you have any plans lined up? So like you get to know them.
Yeah,
I
you're
remember,
invested.
yeah,
Yeah.
you get to know them, and like last week, 2 weeks ago, week and a half ago, whatever it was, at Western Kentucky's pro day,
Hmm.
there were some guys that came back, and guys that you hadn't seen in a few months or in a year. I look at a guy like Jordan Meredith, who
Hmm.
played high school football here in Bowling Green, and then longtime starter on the O line. Got signed and did some things. I believe with the Rams in the NFL as an undrafted free agent. He was back for pro day. Got to see him for a second, and it's
Hmm.
just like seeing guys like that. It's good to just catch up for a minute. Um, but like we said, it's a tough situation, and you just
Yeah.
want to try to handle it the best you can.
And so now we're going to transition into that.
That was
Like
a
you
smooth
said,
transition.
that was a good transition. You did
Was
well. That
it?
was good.
What? No, no, yours.
No.
Usually, you don't want to say we're transitioning.
No, we no. I'm like, this is an easy transition. Like if it looks like a dog, call it a dog. Um. So you are the Western Kentucky beat writer. Spring football. I know. I have you on Snap. We're friends. I see this. This is where you're at all the time. What the hell is spring football? Like, is it just dudes going out and practicing every day? What does spring football tell these people about spring football?
um, at least in Western's case, and in most cases, the teams have 3, 4 weeks of practice and preparation, and trying to get some new guys acclimated, new coaches acclimated. In Western Kentucky's case, they practice 3 times a week, basically. Sometimes the schedule changes for 3 or 4 weeks leading up to their spring game. It's not a full-on football game at that point. The way Western Kentucky does it is pretty much a series of series. They'll
Series
have
of series. Yeah.
a series of series, yes,
Yeah. Series
and
of
they'll
series.
start. They'll like start off at the 20-yard line and go down the field. And if they make it, they make it. If they don't, start over. Maybe throw some new guys in. Some quarterbacks definitely get more reps. I look at last spring, Bailey Zappi had
Hmm.
more series played than any other quarterback, but I think everybody knew at that point, even though he wasn't technically named the starter at that point, that he was going to be the starting quarterback.
And he had a pretty good year, right?
He was fairly decent. Yeah, broke a couple of
Right.
NCAA records.
Right.
Touchdown
Yeah.
passes, had 62, threw for nearly 6,000 yards. But I wouldn't put too much stock in what happens in the spring, because in that spring game last year, he threw, I believe, 4 interceptions in 8 series, and 2 of those were pick sixes. So it's a learning opportunity for these teams, and for
Right.
me personally, it's a chance to get to know the new people that have come, and
Yeah.
with the transfer portal. There's a bunch of guys coming mid-year now, new coaches. The coaching carousel is always wild from start of December up until probably about the end of January. So really, that's what it is for me.
I did see. I'll throw a couple Western names out, and then I'll let you get back in. But my friend Carlos from Russellville, Carlos Quarles. I saw him post a photo down in Boca with him and Willie hanging out down in Boca during spring
Wi-
break a couple days ago.
Willie Taggart.
Willie Tagger. Yeah,
Yeah, because he played football at Western,
yeah,
didn't he? Yeah. Now he's
they play together at Western. Yeah,
coaching basketball there at Russellville. So
yeah, coaching, but yeah, coaching at Russellville. Yeah.
yeah,
But I mean, like you said, it kind of because for us, and to kind of grab from previous topic, we do get attached to these guys. We do get to know these guys, and it's not something that's it's like us. We get other jobs. I mean, these guys graduate, they transfer, and we have to learn all new ones. Like we have to learn, like you said, who's the new freshman, who's the new transfer that's going to come in and kind of shake things up. Spring football is kind of our chance to kind of shake off that rust that you get during basketball, and you kind of like because when football's over, you block that part out of your brain. You're like, football's over. We don't worry about football. It's basketball. Spring football is kind of that little intro into okay, these are the new guys. Let's kind of sharpen the tools a little bit. Let's see what we got.
yeah, and it's kind of a down period. You get a chance to do more like featurey stuff rather than straight up previews and game
Hmm.
stories. Every single day. Um, Yeah, man. What you said about Carlos and going down there and seeing
Hmm.
Willie, reminded me of being on the road a lot. I did a podcast, Underdog podcast with Underdog Dynasty on.
Hmm.
We recorded it Friday. I'm not sure exactly when it's going to go out. I'm in pretty good company. I know they've had on, Coach Dimmel, Coach Stock
Hmm.
still from UTEP, and Coach from Middle Tennessee, football coaches there. So it's an honor to be included in that group. But I was talking with one of the guys there who covers FIU, and that's what it's like on the road for me. You get to know
Hmm.
these other SIDs, you get to know the other media
Yeah.
relations people. Like with Eric with Underdog Dynasty, Eric Henry, you should follow him and read his stuff and listen to the podcast because he does a fantastic job. We go out and we grab drinks whenever we see each other, so you get to know people all over the place.
Hmm. Yeah. It is different because obviously we're in some of the same DM groups, and I hear everybody talk about like, hey, we're gonna go for the state tournament and this and that, and I'm like, it's kind of sad in a way because I know I'm not gonna get to hang out with everybody, but that's so okay. So I saw your thingy mahangy, your koozie. I don't know, what do you guys call them in Maine? Are they koozies?
Koozies, yeah,
Are they
that's
koozies?
what we
Okay, I
call.
didn't know if
Yeah,
you
that's
guys
what we call
had
them.
a whatever name for them, but one of those is coming to Bowling Green. I saw this right.
Smith's Grove, to be
A
exact.
bookies, a butchies,
Bucky's.
Buckies,
Yeah, it's not any of those. It's nothing you'll hear on
Bu-
TikTok.
Buckies. I gave
Yeah,
up TikTok for Lynn. I can't have it right now. Buckies. Okay, so what? This is a South thing, right?
Texas. It started in Texas. It's mostly been in Texas, but now they're expanding. There's also one opening in Richmond, Kentucky. There's one down around the Birmingham area, I believe, in Alabama. There's one down kind of between Mobile and Gulf Shores that I know of that I spent, when
So
I'm not going to say how long on Christmas Day, not this past Christmas, but the one before it.
how many Buckies have you been to?
Oh gosh, I don't know. Because I drive a lot, and
Is it
I need gas, and I need to
is it
refuel
more than
myself.
5? Is it more than 5?
Probably because I've driven across Texas, and they're all across Texas. And if I see one, and I
What is
need
it?
something, it's everybody says it's a gas station or they say it's a convenience store, but I like to think of it as a way of life. Um, it's it's got everything you'll need. You can get fresh food, you can get beef jerky, gas, you know, clothing,
aren't
koozies.
aren't you aren't you
I
from
got a
like the
I got a Christmas sweater there.
oh my gosh. Aren't you from like the Wawa area?
I we don't have Wawas where I grew. I grew up in the middle of nowhere, so we
Or
have we
what
have
is
we had A.E. Robinson, and they had some fire pizza.
A.E. Robinson?
It was just a local kind of
Oh, okay.
company, but they're in all the small towns around. So
Did you guys
that's
have
what
like
I grew up on.
Tim Hortons a lot, like everywhere,
Uh,
because you're basically Canada?
well, we didn't have anything really in my hometown while I was
No.
growing up there. There was a Tim Hortons for a while, about half an hour away, but then that shut down. We do have a Dunkin' Donuts in my hometown now, but that's not saying much
That's
because
nice.
they're in every town. I remember living in Boston when I was going through college and stuff. There were that some you'd be on one side of the street, and then there would be Dunkin' Donuts on the other side of the street as well. It was a little bit ridiculous, but I mean, you always had fresh cup of Joe.
Sidebar: my friend Dalton from Central Illinois said that those are a Huggy.
Yeah, I think Dalton's wrong.
A Huggy. See, boom, Dalton Kemper, Huggy.
But
I don't know.
going back to the original topic, Buc-ee's is definitely the elite gas station travel stop, paradise, if you will,
So
that I've ever been to.
I feel like again, we've been on the road a lot. I I have become kind of not an aficionado because that sounds like I'm super into gas stations. They're fine. But what for you, like when you're driving down the road, what for you, like you go into this gas station, you're like, okay, this is the stop. This is the one. Because for me, number one, top of the list, any guesses?
Uh, Clean bathroom.
Gotta have a clean bathroom, man.
Bucky
I don't
Bucky's has world famous restrooms.
like a little bit of IBS issues. Come on, man. They gotta be tip top. I have there's been some sketchy side. Mm-mm.
Um,
Yeah,
you know,
bathrooms right there.
besides Bucky's, I drive that Bowling Green to Frisco, Texas trip. I've done that a lot, because that's where the Conference USA
Mhm.
basketball tournament is, and I spend a lot of time in Arkansas, more time than I'd like to admit in Arkansas. And
That's fair.
there's
That's
a
fair.
there's a lot of Love's travel stops in Arkansas,
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
they're they're hit or miss. I usually swing
That's
and
true.
miss. But they've got stuff. They've got fairly spacious rest areas, restrooms, if you will. Um, but there's one especially I will never stop at. It's the one kind of north of Little Rock a little bit. It's always packed. The last time I was in there, I needed something. I don't remember. I was needed a break maybe, but there were like 4 busloads of people, and you could not even walk around the store. They love loves in Arkansas. There was one place. Where was I? I was driving to Charlotte, uh, back on my birthday, day before.
Ooh, we lost him for a quick second.
Am I back? Where did I leave off?
Day before my birthday.
Day before my birthday, I was on the road heading to Charlotte for a basketball game, and then I was going to go from there up to Norfolk, Virginia, to cover a game at Old Dominion. But on the way to Charlotte, I stopped at this gas station. It was kind of a weird gas station, and it had like the convenience store area. And then there was another room on the way to the restroom, and they had like 3 or 4 slot machines in there.
Yeah, that's not weird.
No, that was weird. It
No,
was,
man. Slot machines are everywhere here now.
but just it was not a nice gas station.
I when I was in Hopkinsville, there was, and this wasn't a gas station, so I'm going to preface I am deviating from the segment a little bit, but it was not a gas station. It was a liquor store because I don't know if this wasn't an everywhere thing because in Hopkinsville, like a lot of the liquor stores, you could buy alcohol and like actually sit in. Is that a thing in Bowling Green?
Actually, there is one store where you can taste stuff. I believe.
Well, like you can like walk in, like there's a bar, and like you can just sit and like have beers and like watch TV and do whatever.
That, that's nice. I'll go ahead.
And there was it was late. It was late one night, and I said something about having to go to the bathroom, and the woman was like older. She was super nice. She was like, "Oh, honey, I'll let you go behind the bar if you want." I'm like, "No, no, no, that's fine. I'll go where everybody else goes." She goes, "Okay, well, it's just around the corner on the outside of the building." I'm like, "Okay, that's fine." And I'm like, cool. So I go outside the front door and I walk around to the drive through, and there's just like a door, like inside the wall. So I just open the door and I step in, and it is a toilet and just sheet metal, like shiny, shiny sheet metal all around the room. And I'm like, hmm. It was one of the sketchier places I've been in.
Yeah,
And Yeah, I never went back.
Kind of going off of that in Maine, something I very dearly miss. There's not a ton of stuff I miss about living in Maine,
Outhouses.
but no, we have
Oh,
most people. I don't want to say we do because I don't want to include everybody and say most people have running water there now. But the grocery stores sold hard liquor, and I miss that. You
that's
could go
nice.
get you could go get a thing at Allen's and your milk at the same time and mix up a nice Sanford martini. But going back to the road, I remember stopping at I've stopped a lot of places,
Uh-huh.
obviously. Um, some good, some not so good. I was at this in the middle of Arkansas. Uh, I'd seen billboards for this barbecue and catfish place, and I was like, "Well, it's on the billboards. Let's see what's up." I had to stop and I had to write a story anyway,
Uh-huh.
so I wanted to, at least try it and sit down and have a place to write my story. 10 out of 10 do not recommend that place. That is one of the worst barbecue places I've been to, and that's saying a lot because I've been to a lot.
So you have the hat, snows, and I know that number one, I will give you 100% credit. The name of the name of this podcast is 100% on you.
No, not 100, because you said something with meat, something with sports and
I
media.
said I said meat sweats. Was my opening was my opener was
I,
meat
I
sweats.
think I said meatballs. So
You said meatballs. Yeah, meatballs. Which honestly somebody else suggested that too, so it wasn't that far off. But yeah, so I think I think it combines all of our loves. I don't want to say meat, but meat and sports because I'm a basketball person. Press. I mean that's what you do, and
that's what you
football
did.
you have
Yeah,
press coverage and
yeah,
like there's works in different things.
yeah. We're just trying to combine all the words of what we like,
All the
what
words
we're
of what we
what
like.
what what we're gonna talk about.
Yeah,
But
and I think this
no,
encompasses everything. But how how did main what do you call yourselves manians? What are you guys?
I usually go with Mainers. Some people go
Mainers,
Maniacs. Yeah, Mainers, not like the duck.
Mainers.
No, that's mallards. Never mind.
I was gonna say
See,
Mainers.
that's why there's no ducks in the name of this podcast. We don't know. We don't know
Yeah.
ducks. We might learn ducks, start a new podcast, but
Oh my gosh. I've told you that I'm gonna get a duck? Have I talked that's for another day. But anyway, Mainers, Mainers.
yeah, that's what I usually go with.
Okay. So how did a Mainer like yourself become obsessed with barbecue?
Well, it started on the road. Let's travel back in
Mhm.
time to
Was it
2019.
long and dusty?
Long and dusty. What?
Yeah. That's usually like how you like on a
Oh,
long and
oh
dusty
no.
road.
Uh,
I thought you were a
well,
writer,
it
man.
I just sometimes.
Oh,
Um,
I know.
it was a long road. It was that you know trip through Arkansas that led me to barbecue.
Are
It
you
was
gonna
not.
name drop?
I might name drop, yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Um, but anyway, it was 2019 First Responder Bowl. Sponsored by Serve Pro, in case they want to sponsor us too, or Bad Boy Mowers. But
Bad one, yeah. Anything
yeah,
can sponsor us. We have no shame.
no, none. But anyway, First Responder Bowl in Dallas, Texas, at SMU. I was there. It was kind of a last minute surprise for me. I wasn't planning on going because
Jared's gone, but he will be back soon. Go.
I hate my internet.
You're good.
Where did I leave off?
First responder bowl.
First Responder Bowl in Dallas, Texas, at SMU. I was not in the position I'm currently in. I was kind of just helping out the previous Western Kentucky beat writer at the Daily News, Elliot Pratt. Um, I had been hired to do some video stuff as well because I had that capability. And he called me one morning and he's like, "Hey, how do you feel about going to the bowl game. And I was like, I would love to go to the bowl game. So we drove down there and did all that. And, we were trying to plan out our week for video coverage because we were going to do some stand ups and I was going to edit them while he wrote stories. And, the first day we got there, we stopped by, this restaurant where Western was eating just to do a hit of, hey, Western Kentucky
Hmm.
out here in Dallas for the bowl game. After that, we stopped and we got some barbecue. We were going to go to Pecan Lodge. It was fairly busy. We wanted to
Yeah.
do that fresh. We wanted to do that fresh to show me fresh. That's how you should do it. But we walked over to a new place in Dallas at that point in time called Terry Black's. That it's the owner's part of a very famous barbecue family down there in Texas, and it was great. We got there late in the night, so the selection had dwindled down. It wasn't as fresh. You want to get the barbecue early. We went there, and then we eventually went back to Pecan Lodge. We had a free day where we didn't have anything to do for coverage. We had done, they're here. We'd done practice reports. We had done a fun little piece on, they went to Top Golf as one of their bowl game activities, and we had the day off before the bowl game. So we're like, let's do a barbecue review and just let some people know that maybe coming down to Texas, maybe some places they want to hit up. So we stood outside
I'm playing this in
Pecan
my
Lodge.
head. I'm playing this video in my head.
You know what I'm talking about. The
I know the
uh,
exact video. Yeah.
the one I said something along the lines of Texas is not a place you're in; it's a place that's in you. If you're in Texas, you might as well be like just something like that. But we did
Texas
that,
forever,
and that's
man.
that meal at Pecan Lodge. We had run into some other people from Bowling Green as we were standing in line. We ended up sitting at a table and eating with them. And that night, he had some friends coming in for the Predators having their outdoor classic game at
Hmm.
the Cotton Bowl, I believe. And um, so we went to the airport and picked them up, and just hours after eating our weight in Pecan Lodge, we're
Hmm.
like, let's get some more barbecue. Let's go to Hard Eight, and that was really the trip that set me off. And Elliot's no longer with us. He's not dead, but he's no longer at the Daily News. um, I try to travel, get barbecue, and try it in
He's
all the
married.
places. Yeah, I try it in all the places that I go to. It's all a little bit different. Some places are definitely better than others.
Of
Um,
course.
yeah, so that's pretty much how it started.
I I don't think I've ever told you the story. I went to a place. It was when I was in Murray. I was still in grad school, and I was working at the paper in Murray. And I won't name them, so I don't give them a shameless. So I don't give them a plug. Um,
Well, I'm
and
shameless.
I didn't like. They wanted a feature story, so like I didn't know what I was gonna do. So I went out and I just started driving, and I took some turns down some roads that I never had been on, and I'm driving down and I passed this like hole in the wall barbecue restaurant that like just has like a walk up, and like you walk in and it's like the wooden like porch, and there's like one plastic table and a window, and I'm like, hey, I'm here for this. And they're like, oh well, the owner's not here, come back. So I'm like, okay, well, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. So like I come back 30 minutes later, and I ended up eating so much, and like I came away with it like a feature story, because the guy was like all down to talk. He was like, oh, this takes days, and he's like, we always have pits going, and I can't tell you what the name of it was, and I feel bad for that. But yeah, that was like, I feel like those are always like the interesting spots, like that you just find out of nowhere. But
Yeah, yeah. There was one I went to. I had been to Birmingham before, and I had done Dreamland, which has kind of become a chain down there. Pretty famous, very good. The one in Birmingham's. I stop there all the time and sit at the bar. I remember the first time I was ever there. Alabama was playing Georgia. It was a Saturday night. I was just sitting at the bar eating ribs in a suit because I had just covered a game. Um, I'd
nothing
done
but
saws.
class at the Bowling Green Daily News.
Yeah. Uh, I've done saws in that area, and that's one of my favorites too. But then someone was like, I was going to Tuscaloosa for a game, and they're like, go to Archibald's. It's across the river in Northport. It's very good. And it was kind of like that. Like if you didn't know about it, you wouldn't know to go there. You would go to
Oh
Dreamland.
yeah,
But the ribs I had there were absolutely phenomenal.
oh yeah. There's a place called Hillbillies on the side of the road, like in Wickliffe, Kentucky. That it's like right across the river from Caro, and that was like where I would stop coming from Murray to home. The guy who owns it I actually used to work with at the paper mill, but Hillbilly Barbecue, they got like fried bologna, like barbecue bologna. Oh, that on a
Yeah,
bun, a little cheese, a little barbecue.
yeah. Your
Ooh.
your story about running into someone for a story reminded me of a place I kind of forgot about. I was on the way up to East Lansing for a game at Michigan State. I
Ooh,
was with
okay.
Tyler Mansfield, who was with Rivals at the time.
Yes.
Now with On Three, doing the national news desk type thing. And I just told him, I was like, find a place and we'll stop and eat. He found this place. It was, you know, kind of out there. Didn't really know much about it in Indianapolis. We stopped. It was fantastic. It was like Southern, that type of cuisine. I got some barbecue there. But the owner came out. This place was called His Place.
Uh-huh.
And he came out and just asked us how things were going. We started talking to him, said who we were, where we were going. And he's like, oh, my son was just in Bowling Green a few weeks ago. He plays football at Indiana. And I was like, "Oh, what a small world." And so we found out he was, the owner of the place, and Mansfield goes, "Oh, so are you his?" And then he's like, "No, his." And points to the sky. But
Oh,
it's just,
that's so good.
it was just, it was so random that just a few weeks ago we were watching his son, play football, and
Yeah.
that's just kind of this world that we live in. In the sports world, you never know who you're going to run into that knows someone that or that
Oh, yeah.
personally.
Yeah, it's like I know I was sitting at McAllister's with Ed Marlowe one night, and this country singer walks in that I was 100% sure that I knew who it was, and Ed had no idea. And it was this random country singer that like we'd both just covered a football game or something at McCracken, and like we're sitting there and he just walks in. But yeah. But so that's the meat part because we're both fans of barbecue and meat of the like. We are red-blooded Americans in that sense. But we also both like sports a decent amount.
Yeah, it's, I
Pays the
mean, they're all right.
bills. It pays the
They're all right.
bills,
Yeah,
right? It pays for your new woodworking habit.
yeah, yeah. No, I've become a divorced dad basically with no kids. Um, yeah, I
Nothing
spent my
wrong with
Friday
that.
night actually. I spent my Friday night in a friend's garage. They weren't even home, woodworking, building a bar. Um, as I drank cheap beer and listened to minor league baseball on the radio. So shout out Sean Mernon, broadcaster, the Bowling Green Hot Rods.
I
He
was gonna ask,
kept me,
was it
he
Hot
kept me
Rods?
entertained. It was Hot Rods, yeah.
I think McGee, Easton McGee's playing for the the Bulls, like the Durham Bulls, maybe.
I'm not sure. I haven't followed
He's
that
from
much.
Hoptown. That's
That's
the only
not
reason I know who it is.
that's not my specialty. So
Yeah.
I'll go and enjoy a game every now and again, and it's a good time, and I'd recommend it to anybody that wants to get out. It's pretty cheap fun,
It's fun. Yeah, it's
for the
fun.
product.
I would agree. Like Memphis is a fun time too. The Redbirds, the AAA team of the Cardinals. That's a good time
Yeah,
also.
I stayed down that way. Walked by the stadium one night for a game at FedEx Forum when
The
Western,
AutoZone Park.
something like that.
I
I
think
think it was
that's right.
something with
Yeah.
a
You've been to
park.
Rendezvous, right?
I have been to Rendezvous.
Yeah.
It
It was fine.
It was fun. I love the atmosphere. You kind of
Right. Right.
in a
Yeah.
back alley in downtown Memphis, and you go down the stairs and you sit down. I sat down at the bar right after they opened. But the thing was, I got there and I was talking to the bartender a little bit, and I said like I like to travel and try barbecue, and I go to Texas a lot. And he immediately said Texas barbecue sucks, and then went on a long rant about why it sucks. And he's like, if I wanted, um, if I didn't want any flavor, I would go to Texas barbecue. And I was like, bro,
Wow.
you better take a step back now because I
Man,
haven't had your ribs yet. And
did you
they were
tell him
not.
Texas forever? Like,
I didn't say any. I sat in silence and I ate my ribs and I ate my brisket, and it was fine.
I
It's
would
not
have.
a place that I would love to. Like, I would go back, and that says about how good it is. But it's definitely not one of my top that I would recommend.
Is it because of the barbecue or because of the experience?
No, the experience was great. I love the guy.
Okay. Okay.
Like
You still like the guy. Like, you were cool with the guy,
yeah, no,
even though he had a trash take.
I love that he said that. It's
Yeah.
just that competition, like,
Right. Yeah, of
that
course.
but everybody asked me, they're like, "What's the best place you've been?" I was like, "I can't say what the best place I've been is because they're all so different, but I have my favorite, but I'll save that for another day, so you
I was
keep
gonna
listening."
say, I think you should save that for another day. But I think that's all the time we've got. I think we're gonna come back next week. You think we can do 3 weeks in a row?
Yeah, I think we can do 3 weeks in a row, and I think you can listen to the Meet the Press podcast in a lot of different places. Like here on Facebook Live, that's where we've been recording it, and
That's true.
you can also now find us on Spotify. How about that?
It's really like I told you before, it was cool seeing like the picture on there.
Yeah, exactly. You can follow us on the socials like Instagram, like
Shout
Facebook,
out
like
shout out
Twitter.
Branda for making our logo.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, Brenda Sedaris. Shout out.
And keep your eyes peeled on Apple Podcasts because we'll be there shortly, hopefully.
We're on the way. We're a freight train. We're coming. All right. We'll see you next week.
Stay tuned.